What's going on, Mix Nation? Welcome back to the Kinetic PE Show, the podcast where we ignite potential and transform your workforce. I'm your host, Marcus DJ Potential Heart, and I'm fired up to bring you another episode packed with insights, strategies, and inspiration to elevate your leadership and drive innovation within your organization. But we also add today a very special component. We are adding the world of magic into all of this. So as much as you know about us being dedicated as our individuals and businesses to reach their full potential, today you're going to hear from a very truly special guest, performer, speaker, and innovator out of the tri-state who brings a unique perspective to the table. We're talking about the one and the only Douglas Frazier. So welcome to the show, Douglas.
Hey, thanks for having me, Marcus.
Yeah, I gotta let people know that you're not the typical business guru. We talked about you being able to read the room and adjust, but I think that all comes with being an incredible musician. Am I right?
Yeah, magic has certainly taught me a lot. Specifically how to read people. I mean that's critical in life beyond magic. As a magician, you have to be at least one or two steps ahead. Naturally, you're not following along with the trick. You're actually ahead of the audience 90% of the time. And as a result, you got to be picking up things that, people aren't aware of. As a result, keen insight is critical in this profession, but it's true for business as well.
Yeah. So when you think of magic and then you add in the performance of a team, exactly does that mean, and what can we expect to be diving into today?
Yeah. So there's the magic itself, the performance, right? The truth is, Marcus, is that less than 3% of all the time I invest in magic is the show, the actual performance. I put so much work into preparation, into setup, into certainly practice, as you might imagine, that into getting to my venues, into making sales calls, post shows. I put so much into reflecting on how it went, getting feedback from others. These are things that ultimately come back to that 3% of my time. And it's critical. And it is a team environment. I have a sales team that helps qualify leads, and then they bring it to me, and I typically close the lead. And many times I don't close the lead, and I have to learn how to, I never take no for an answer. I always take not yet. I think that's important. So my team, from the mentors who have helped me learn magic throughout the years since I've been doing this as a young boy, all the way to the family and friends who support me, who let me perform on them and kind of mess up, if you will, prior to a paid performance. Those are all part of my team. And there's things I have to do for them in return, naturally, and, give favors to them. But it is, people typically think, oh, that guy on stage, he's a magician and he has one or two assistants. No. It's a much bigger team than that. And to be a well-functioning team requires consistent communication, tenacity, preparedness, all the key elements of a successful business enterprise.
Yeah, man, that makes a lot of sense. I would imagine too, over the years, you have, not only just mastering illusion, misdirection, and creating that sense of wonder, you began to understand the audience, be able to craft these narratives and deliver unforgettable experiences. Growing up, I remember learning about Houdini, and then after learning about Houdini, I got into the Chris Angel craze for a while, and then I went back and looked at David Copperfield. Was there anybody that in particular that's a big name that you kind of drew from, or you mentioned mentors, but but looking at any of those performers or and professionals?
Sure. There's always, anytime you do something for as long as I have, close to 40 years, I don't like to say that, but anything you've done something as long as I've done. I started when I was 4 years old. it's nothing in life is linear, right? You don't just, go up and up. There's pauses, there's stalls, there's setbacks. But where I have kind of elevated myself in the art of magic, there's always been a seminal moment, whether it was inspiration, whether it was edification, whether it was someone showing me something. Again, these mentors. Now, you won't know these people, but, there was that one time that my folks took me on a skiing trip, and we got too much snow so that we couldn't even get out the door. And one of the family friends, the kids of my father's colleague, he knew some tricks a little bit more advanced than I had experience with at that time. And we jammed for, 4 hours, what seemed like till probably midnight when you're 8 years old, which is through the night. And, I learned some things that were critical. That was unexpected, of course, but that kind of elevated my game. As far as external motivation or inspiration, yeah, David Copperfield, you said it. I mean, what he did for the art, changing it from, the Top Hat and the Bird productions to kind of the MTV culture of the day. I know for maybe a lot of your viewers, MTV is something a thing of the past, but in the 80s, music television was huge, and Copperfield had the, brilliant insight to say, oh, I got to start making my production pieces like MTV shows. That's innovation, right? That's what makes the greats the great, is they recognize what are the times and how do I deliver that effectively such that it's marketable. Harry Houdini did it. I've never seen Houdini perform, naturally, given when he lived. But from the research I've done, he wasn't a profoundly amazing magician. But what he was better than everyone, he was the best marketer. The fact that my kids today know who Houdini was, or at least the name, speaks to the power of his marketing. They don't know the name David Copperfield. Again, they're kids, so they may at one point, but I mean, Houdini just did something incredible in that he lives eternally. David Blaine is someone today who technically is a wonderful magician. Is he the best in the world? In my opinion, no. But what he does with his stunts of strength and, human endurance and the way he markets it, he is the best. And that's why he is a household name. So there's been so many inspirations, moments in my life where I've, as I said, leveled up and grown with the art. And each piece is unique. We may discuss some of those later.
Okay. Yeah. I like what something you said about, when you were 8 years old, how that you start getting the educational piece, you start understanding the educational piece behind it and start learning some things and advancing that way. And I was thinking to myself, man, it's incredible, to be, have a passion and not realize that you actually drawing all these different life experiences, all these business things that you can use later on to help you be better at your craft. There's nothing more rewarding than that, and getting on the job training, so to speak. So I think that's great. And then to your point about Houdini, yeah, man, just years later, he's like the Jesus of magic, if I can say that.
Another amazing marketing PR team, right? With all due respect to the name Jesus, it's an incredible narrative that's lived on, and I think that's the constant throughout this, is that at the end of the day, I personally believe what makes us human and connects you and I, even though we've never physically met, is our common need for storytelling, right? And Houdini told a story, and Jesus told stories, right? He literally told stories to his followers. We want to connect, whether you're a country singer, whether you're a rapper, we want to connect. And as the audience, as a recipient, who likes certain types of music, I want to connect and I want to feel something. So, I got struck by the magic bug. It's something I do enjoy. It started with curiosity, of course. And, how do you do that? And now it's much more than that for me. It's not about fooling people. That's really not the objective. The objective is to make you feel something, especially in today's day and age that's highly think about AI right now. We could write a 30-page novella right now with just a few keywords and a few prompts. That's pretty magical, right?
Right.
We know it's technology. We know it's processing. Some people know what it is a little bit more based on language model learning. But what I think, where I think magic is undefeated is it can be just something with a simple coin or deck of cards, or just something very very common. No ones or zeros. It's something that relies on the humanity of our relationship. I'm going to communicate with you. I'm going to captivate you. I'm going to direct you. I'm going to direct your attention. I'm going to make you want things out of this performance. I'm going to create a sense of wonder. We do this with magic. We also do it with all the products we have, Have a Coke, right? No free promotions going forward.
Yeah, they don't get no more. You're right about that. But storytelling, and the power of storytelling is a very remarkable piece of this. And when it comes to leadership in the business world, you got to be able to know how to craft those narratives, create that sense of wonder, create that expectation of change and innovation. You spoke about innovative solutions to tackling big challenges, So give us a little insight into the power of storytelling, because I think for those who are passionate about leadership, a seasoned executive, a workforce development professional, something like that is really important for them to understand, and the importance of adaptability too, which comes with what you do.
Yeah, I mean, the great leaders understand how to tell a story. Full stop. Right there. The best leaders tell a story. The best magicians tell a story. And it's accompanied with a product or a service, or in a magician's case, like I said, a deck of cards or a coin or something like that, rubber bands. But ultimately, there has to be a really good story. So, yeah, I mean, it's critical. I can't tell you enough. I don't teach a whole bunch right now, but there was a phase in my life when I was in high school. I'd go to the local elementary school and teach kids how to do really simple tricks, like the tricks that I started with, right? Naturally. And what they could learn the method, how to, hold the coin in their hand discreetly. For the most part, they understood that. But what they couldn't do is they couldn't be an honest liar in the case of a magician, right? Because that's what you are. You're an honest liar. The expectation is, if you come to my show, I'm not actually the occult. This isn't the 16th century. I'm not a warlock or a witch. I'm not going to, you're not going to burn me at the stake if I do something that defies the laws of the universe. Let's hope. But there's a social contract between us, right? I'm a magician. I'm going to tell you things, some of which will be true and some of which won't be. And the narrative I tell is going to take you down a path that I want to take you down. And I'm going to do that not just with my mouth and my story, but I'm going to do that with my senses. I'm going to put something in your hands. I'm going to have you hold something. I'm going to borrow something from you, something from you important. Maybe it's your watch. Maybe it's $100 bill that you're lending me, right? All of a sudden, you're not just like orally invested. You're mentally invested. You're emotionally invested. I use all of that to, frankly, entertain you. I don't use the word trick. That's not my goal. I want to create a sense of wonder. That's a really important objective for me. If you come to my show and after the show you say, "Hey, oh man, Douglas, I loved your magic. Those tricks were great." Respectfully, I have missed the mark. That is not my objective, to trick you. And this is, hopefully the goal is, and I've heard this many times, this is where I know I've hit the nail on the head, is they say, I felt something truly transformational. I felt like a child again. I felt wonder. Like, I'll never forget, I was doing a show just a few months ago, and it was for a mix of people, everyone from like young children all the way to adults. We happened to have it was like a family reunion. And, I remember at one point I'm performing a piece and let's just say I float something. We'll leave it at that. And it's floating and it looks really good. And there's an older gentleman, probably in his early 80s. And I just look out of the corner of my eye just to see his reaction. And I see an 8-year-old boy on it, in his face. And that's why I do it, because I can almost guarantee you that he has not felt that childlike wonder in years. Now, look, there's other ways to feel wonder. You hold a newborn baby, of course, those are powerful moments. I'm not competing with those, that's real magic, right? But as far as what I can control in the constructs of what I do, which is performance magic and magic keynotes for businesses, I can create powerful moments, and that's the objective.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great point. And, it reminds me of that old saying that, like, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, and in business, you can have the most meticulous crafted strategy, but then something unexpected happens, and then you have to be able to pivot. It's like when I was creating a mixtape for a wedding once, and then they put the track on, and the power went out right before the bride and groom's first dance. To talk about a successful moment, but then I quickly grabbed a guitar and serenaded them with a sweet little number and saved the day. And you can see people's faces light up. So adaptability is key, and creating that sense of wonder is too. So, like, how do leaders cultivate that adaptability within their teams?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So being able to adjust on the fly is critical. We, in the tech world, they call it agile, right? Being agile. Being, non-technically, we're talking about being flexible. We're talking about not relying on one product, one service, not, as the more traditional expression is, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Think of Amazon, for example, obviously a highly transformative, culture, right? They have the retail, e-tail, I suppose you could say. Yes, they have some retail as well now. They started as selling books, right? Well, Bezos knew that there's more to it than selling books. That was the first thing they started. So, so they started expanding their product. Now they carry everything. I got a piece for my car the other day that I can't even get from the actual dealership that makes my car. That's how, well but that wasn't enough for them. What they've done is they've, by virtue of building that, they build out servers and enough such that now they can store people's data, the cloud, Amazon Web Services, right? And that's obviously transformed not just Amazon, but it's transformed other businesses as well in terms of what can be done. So now they have so let's say if there is something of a, recessionary effect on their retail, well, they're going to be able to keep things afloat with their cloud services. So, that's critical, right? But when you start off in your small business, and I do consult with small businesses, you got to do the first thing really well. And you got to have enough runway to deal with unexpected things, whether they're, customers not exactly understanding what you're selling, whether it's the market not, bearing what you thought. The first time I told somebody that, hey, I can go into a business, I can read your, 10Ks, I can read your annual reports, and I could sit through, half a day of your workshop, and then that night put together a performance that will reinforce the mission and values for your, annual strategy. That might make sense to you right now, but the first time I said that, they just stared at me like I was, frankly crazy. It takes a trust in yourself, ultimately, in your vision. Yeah. I mean, it's something that doesn't get spoken about enough in magic, or more specifically in business, is the self-belief. If you do not have self-belief in anything you do, you will not succeed, because life is going to throw, as you said, so much adversity at you, whether it's the power going down and having to go acoustic. Yes, you need to have the other skills to know how to adjust, but you need to just believe that even if you didn't know how to play the guitar, that maybe you could just get something going with your hands, or maybe you could, get someone else, find someone else to play the guitar. I mean, there's talent all around us. You got to be able to think creatively. I walk into every performance with a set plan. I have a show tonight in Lower Manhattan. I'm going in there. I have a vision of what it's going to be. I know how many people are there. I know the gender. It happens to be all of one gender crowd. I know what they're eating. I've literally looked at their menu. I'm exceptionally well prepared to perform for them. Something will happen that I did not, and I've done thousands of shows, but something will happen that I didn't anticipate. And fortunately, it doesn't worry me because by virtue of my experience and my ability to, jazz and adapt, be agile, it will be fine. But no matter how good or how many shows you do, you will always have, you will always have things unexpected. I mean, it's literally the change is constant, right? That expression, change is constant. Change will be constant, and whether it's intentional change or inadvertent change, it's coming your way, and you got to learn to live with it.
And Douglas, man, you really speak in the language of so many people that need to hear this right now. Brilliance is really showing out right now, and you speaking to about finding new ways to solve problems in a sense, and it's about challenging the status quo, thinking outside of the box. I remember trying to brainstorm, for outline for this whole episode, and I was brainstorming for days and days and days. And then while I was making a smoothie, it came to me, man. And sometimes the best ideas come when you least expect it. So how can leaders create an environment where creativity thrives? Because nowadays it just seems like, we got to get to the dollar, but how do we get to the dollar if there's no creativity in the environment?
Yeah. Man, I wish I was, I wish I had all the answers on creativity, except that, as you said, it does happen often when you least expect it. I would posit to that your preparation and all the mistakes you make prior to that create those opportunities. I love, was Michael Jordan, he's, what did he say? It's only because I've missed so many shots that I've hit the ones that mattered. I'm paraphrasing that, but Wayne Gretzky, I missed more shots than I've made, but that's why, so you gotta fail incessantly. And I don't mean intentionally fail. I mean, you have to be vulnerable. I have done, as I said, I have a team where, trusted advisors, they're my inner circle. They know I'm a magician. They know, when I show them a trick, there's a few people that know, okay, this is not prime time ready yet. You're going to pick up on it. And then I trust them to give me feedback. Oftentimes I know exactly what did not work or did not stick. I was working with someone the other day and I showed him it, and, I said, hey, this is how it works. And he says, well, that looks terrible. Wow. That's really direct feedback, right? That looks terrible. I needed to hear it. I'm a brutally direct person. But there's I think being direct and being critical is highly important to being a creative person. So again, it gets back to believing in yourself, but also knowing that you're not going to just, there's no overnight success story. Are there people that are, genetically or mentally gifted that are closer to the creative spectrum? Of course. But even the best players, I mean, didn't Michael Jordan get, cut from his basketball team? Why didn't he quit? Right. And now we're talking about, the legend. I can guarantee you there are people, singers that were told they weren't good or that, they should do this. And guess what they did? They reinvented themselves. People always think, oh, I like the original album of U2, of Beyonce, of whoever, right? But those are people at the end of the day, and they're evolving, right? And people say, oh, I like early 70s Aerosmith, and early 90s Aerosmith was not my cup of tea. It's okay, that's fine. You're entitled to that opinion. There's a lot of people who like early 90s Aerosmith, but more importantly, the reason why they had an album, is because they needed to create it. So again, it comes back to believing in yourself and almost making it not for anyone else initially. I say initially because ultimately, if you want it to be marketable, you do have to listen to your customers. You can't just say, hey, this is for you. So, but if it's not coming from within and you're doing it because you just think, oh, it can make money, it can be a commercial success, I don't believe that I don't believe there's a connection there. It has to come from within, and you need to put it out there. You need to be courageous, vulnerable, seek feedback, listen to feedback, trust yourself again, rinse and repeat. I think that's true for product development, service innovation. I think that's true for all the other arts. And I think it's true for relationships in general. And I've had relationships that have been incredibly successful, and I've had, failed relationships. All of these things relate to not just our personal lives, but our business lives as well. You jump on a team of 100 people. That's incredibly difficult to work with people. Everyone has their own side objectives. Everyone has their own other motivations. And if they're not aligned and people aren't being communicative with each other, it can be a real problem.
Well, I love that, man. You really go into some gems there. And, hey, man, I love hearing, the Michael Jordan references. And I'm a fan of YouTube and Aerosmith too, by the way. So I like their music too. So, yeah, but you really speak in, the gospel here, man. We're going to take a quick break, though, and, check in and allow some of these sponsors to pay the bills. So don't go anywhere. We're going to dive into more with Mr. Douglas Frazier here, and we're going to wow you with a special segment of some magic. Be right back on the Connect PE Next Show. Oh, Eugene, isn't it amazing how nature teaches us about resilience and growth? Like the beauty emerging from the soul. Your story is waiting to flourish. As Ecclesiastic 3:1 tells us, there is a time for everything. At Transformative Media Network, we are here to journey alongside you through those seasons, storytelling, faith, and empathy. Let us sow seeds of spiritual growth and nurturing community together. Friends, wherever you're from and whatever your story is, remember that the growth doesn't come in neat packages. It's messy, it's vibrant, and most importantly, it's also beautiful, baby. I'm Marcus Hart, and at Transformative Media Network, we are here to support, uplift, and empower you to live boldly with purpose. Let's make this journey together and see you on the other side. Okay, welcome back, Connected PE Mix crowd. Ladies and gents, we are here with the wonderful and fabulous Douglas Frazier, who's been giving us a lot of insights and helping us kind of, transcend and the boundaries and between magic and the business world. And, we covered a lot of ground here today, Douglas. And I think one of the things that, we want to draw a connection to is maybe giving us an example of how the cultural, crossover and the stories that you craft, it becomes very transformational when you're working with these different businesses and you're doing a thing.
Sure thing. So I think one of the most in-demand topics that leaders are looking to bring outside perspective in is three areas. It's leadership, it's motivation, and it's wellness. Those are the top three in-demand topics. Now, each of those has subgenres, if you will. But motivation is critical, right? I mean, leaders want their employees to feel inspired. This isn't just clocking in and making rocking chairs, to use an old arcane story. They want people to reinvent the rocking chair, right? And magicians are naturally in a place where their job is to be innovative. It is to, illusion and innovation are not only are they similar in, syllables, but they're very close in terms of being related to each other. So oftentimes someone wants to know, how do we transform this? I like to show them new ways to think of things. So now we would normally do this if we were together in the room, where we would use your card, but I would ask you to, fold this card. Yeah, literally fold this card. And 9 times out of 10, you will do this, right? You would, first thing you'd say, you want me to fold the card? That's usually the first say, hold the card.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I know what you're thinking. It's almost like I've done this before. And then, they fold it. And then I say, well, listen, that is right. Technically fold it. Now you could have folded it this way as well, right? Like you could have folded it what we call lengthwise, right? 2 ways to do something differently. And some people only see it one way. This isn't rocket science. This is nothing deeply profound, of course, but technically it's 2 different ways to fold a playing card, right? And now if I said to you, and I'd hand these to you if we were together, I'd say, put one card inside the other. You could put this, what we'll call the hamburger piece, into the hot dog, right? Into the hot dog bun, right? Or you could put the hot dog into the hamburger bun. That's 2 ways to put a card inside each other. A lot of people only see it this way. They can't see it that way. And what a magician does, and any good innovator, is they see things more than one way. And that allows you, that again, this gets back to items we talked about in this first half of our segment, is about challenging yourself to reevaluate how you look at things and getting feedback, right? So now another way we can do something is we can put we can do something where, let's see here, we could put put a card in like this, and we can turn it inside out like that. So now we've turned the card inside out, right? That's one way to turn the card inside out. Now there's another way to do it as well. And again, if we were together, I'd have you hold this. The other way to turn the card inside out is a way most people can't actually envision, but it actually looks like this. Okay. And it actually turns over on both sides for its entire length. Again, we'll show you what that looks like, because you weren't quite ready for it. But if you look, the card is now going to reverse itself, turning inside out. Most people would not think about this, but a magician has to be relevant. Otherwise, the first couple of phases I showed you wouldn't. And we can trap this in the middle, so that now half the card is facing one way, and half the card is facing the other, right? Isn't that wild? So again, this is a performance piece I do, and I add a bit more context to the. I brand it to whatever product or solution that that company is doing, whether it's tech or retail or I worked with a sneaker company recently, and this was important because design, as you might imagine. Now look, I caught it right down the middle, and let's see if you can see this. I'll make sure we're in frame here. You can even pull it out. And again, you could examine these pieces. There's no sleight of hand. There's nothing fancy or phony. Those cards are now perfectly half and half, inside and out. So that's just one example of thinking creatively, innovatively, but not to bury. I don't want to bury the lead either. I'm doing magic, right?
Sure.
But I'm telling a story, and I think that's what's important. So if you, like I said, the sneaker company, they're trying to, there's only so many ways you can design a sneaker, and there are a lot of ways, right? Well, there's even more ways. Let's think about that. Is there a new way to invent the sneaker? Is there a new way to invent a certain act? These are things that I do. That's one example. Another one is there's a company that's really, we talk about transformation all the time, and they're excuse me, and they're I don't know if you've heard of. I know we've all heard of recycling, but upcycling is a whole nother thing. Upcycling means repurposing or getting more out of it. So it's a new concept. People are still learning what it means. I'm still learning what it means, but this is an example where a company, I show them, a drink that I'm drinking, and it's nearly done now. In fact, you can see here that it's just about finished there. So if you look here, here's the that's a little bit of spill there, right? But you see here we have the tab. We're going to try to fix that tab. So this is this this is those 6-ounce cans that they sell, or 7.5 technically, not the 12-ounce cans. What's great about these is you can get more per unit from the customer, but you also use less of material. Of course, it's not a 12-ounce can. What they haven't sold yet is the possibility that people still might want 12 ounces of drink. In this case, Diet Coke, right? So I like to show people how you might be able to upcycle this product. So, for example, just finished one sip of this, but now we're going to try to refill the can. So let me show you what I mean by that. I think you can see that there. Watch this. I'm going to try to fix that tab, and we're actually going to try to reseal it.
Oh, wow.
You see that?
Amazing.
I'll bring it close there. It's refilled. This is the same can. It's never been
my goodness.
It's never been out of frame. And we can, first of all, we sealed it, but what we can also do that's really cool is we can actually refill it too. Watch this. You can actually hear it if you listen carefully.
No way.
Now watch this. Watch this.
Oh, man. No, I don't believe it.
And the can has refilled. Now there's a great story, right? Cheers.
This is dope. This is so dope and fire.
Well, yeah, it was entertaining. I talked about their themes, recycling, upcycling. Of course, this is still a trick at the end of the day, but it's entertaining. And who would ever think, right, that you could refill the half cans and get the same volume? So it's actually better value for everyone. We're saving materials, saving shipping costs naturally, and we got a free refill. Wink, wink, right? So that's the type of ideas that I bring, and I can literally brand it. So shoot it. If a little more carbonation than I expected there. That's real. Yeah. That's real soda.
You got extra in the cup too.
Exactly. So I can brand. So this sneaker company that hired me, they wanted to produce the new Jordans. Actually, I know Jordan seems to be a theme of this interview, but the new Jordans that came out there.
Shout out to Jordan.
There's retro. Yeah, shout out to Jordan. If you're watching, Michael, we're giving you a little more attention than, and he needs more attention, right? So they wanted me to produce the Jordans from a shoebox, right? I mean, that makes sense, right? Produce them, product placement. There's a trick with shoelaces I do, which obviously ties to sneakers and that sort of thing. So, I've got enough experience in my life that you're never getting the same show from me. Because every customer is different. Every customer has a unique need. So sometimes you go look at the pastas. Malcolm Gladwell talked about this a bit. There's so many pastas, sauces that is, and pastas, of course. Why, right? Why? Well, people have preferences. We're a very diverse species. There's obviously some that are more popular than others. Some sneakers sell better than others. Some pasta sauces sell better than others. But there's always some people who will buy something that, might not be right for you and I, but right for them. And I think that speaks to just understanding customers and what their needs are. I do the same thing in my performances, and I encourage any good company will continually evaluate what their customers need and make sure they can deliver and meet those new expectations.
Love it, man. This is truly amazing how you can take something so seemingly impossible and make it a reality. You know, it highlights, what we've been talking about all along. The power of illusion and the importance of storytelling. And man, I really thank you for sharing this with us, sharing that with us. I feel like I'm cheating by getting this for free right now. So,
Well,
man, fascinated,
well,
very
we're
fascinating.
building
Thank you.
awareness, right? No, I mean,
Yes.
I appreciate what you're doing, which is, showing new ways to be transformative in the least expected places, right? Um, whether it's, music production or movie production or poetry, whatever you decide to cover. I mean, there are lessons to be learned from any, art or science that, has people dedicated to advancing it. And, I'm just one of thousands and thousands of magicians. But what I bring, I'm not the best in the world. I mean, there are top magicians that are, definitely up there, right? I'm just if all modesty aside. But what I do is, as the brand magi, if you go to brandmagi.com, is you'll see someone who's got a background in business who also really has enjoyed magic his whole life. I think that's super valuable because, look, there's a place for the Vegas magician with the cool hair and the birds and the fire and all that. Like, and it's Vegas. Let's be honest, it's Vegas.
Yeah.
That's not me, as you can tell, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm just a guy who works in corporate America, but also knows how to bring some art to, make meetings a little more insightful. So that's what I do best. And I'd like to think when it comes to the, confluence of magic and business, I'm someone who can do that exceptionally effectively.
Right. And I wouldn't minimize, yourself either, and I don't think you are, but I hear the humbleness in your voice and like in just your whole demeanor, and that's very incredible, man. And a lot of people, they want to compare themselves, and they don't have to, and I think that's speaks to, like, just your craft here, and what you provided, and as we near into the time, and speaking of lessons, what are some of the key takeaways you hope our audience will remember? Besides the good magic trick, with magic, the magic art,
I
there
prefer,
was the good art there, man.
yeah, sure. Look, we need to tell good stories in any capacity, whether it's, writing a story, whether it's orally telling a story, telling a good joke. It's a skill. It's important to laugh. It's important to, yeah, when we hear good music, feel the heart, rushing and get the endorphins up here in the head, and just feel it. And, or if it's dancing, in my case, magic, my goal is, again, I've said this before, it's not to trick you. At least that's the bare minimum. The objective is to get you to create a sense of wonder. I think, being human is being able to connect with people and understanding what we can, but also realizing that there are things we will never fully understand. We can try. I'm not suggesting we bury our heads in the sand and not try to advance our knowledge, but at the end of the day, there's just so much that being human is not always understanding things, and that's okay. A magician is a very safe reminder that, there are things despite all the academics and all the education and thinking you're clever, we can still be deceived. We can still miss important things, and that's, not only is that okay, it's really healthy, and it's essential to any good life lived in any business that wants to be impactful in this world. And I, to the extent that I could be a reminder of that, it's my honor.
Love it, man. And with all respects to you, and the demonstration today, was incredible. And you're right. The trick is just the small entry point. It's not even like, the fullness of what people are tapping into, helping them to tap into their own creativity at the same time, connecting with people on a human level. And what I get out of it is just being able to come forward with, being more authentic and being able to lead with heart and finding the magic within ourselves and using it to inspire others. And that's what you gave me today, man. And for our listeners who just want to learn more about your work, where could, you mentioned the website a few minutes ago, but, maybe give us a reminder of where they can find you at.
Thanks. Yeah. I actually have a relatively small social presence, because I do target, businesses. So I do a lot of direct mailing, kind of a weekly newsletter or month. I mean, it depends on time of year, of course, but, I do send out a digital newsletter. And if anyone wants to subscribe to that, they would just email support@brandmagi.com and just request that they be put on the list. And they would get updates. Otherwise, where I manage my content, where I manage my messaging is through my website, which is brandmagi.com. So that's brandmagi.com. And my business is called Magic Solutions. And yeah, again, I perform classic shows like I will be this evening in the city. But I also, go around to the corporations as well. So I have two products, again, back to the whole diversification of products and services. So if you want to learn more about that, you can just go to my website and then you can reach out to me directly.
Excellent, my man. So we'll be sure to include that link in the show notes. And also we're going to encourage our listeners and those on our email list to check out more from you and connect with you. And anybody who comes with me with the great questions, I'm just going to be sure to forward them over to you. This has been very inspiring today, Douglas. I thank you so much for joining us on the Kinetic PE Mix Show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Thanks for doing the show. I think, you giving people a voice or platform rather to share their voice is critical for, opening people's eyes and the ways we can innovate and as you say, transform. So thank you for what you do.
Indeed, man. Thank you so much. Incredible episode. Those who are, checking us out right now, be sure to share this with someone someone you don't know, and leave a comment if you got questions or, if there was pieces of this that, that really stood out to you the most or resonated to you the most. We'd love to hear from you, man. Indeed. And those who would like more information, again, we will have that link in the episode description and in our email newsletter. Until next time, I'm Marcus, along with Douglas. Many blessings, peace, and lots of love.
Transform You Radio. You are now tuned in to Transform You Radio. You hear me? Check. I stand for what you stand for. I'm at your door like the landlord. I can see the future, yeah, I fast forward. I get on the mic and I transform. Follow me, I'm in rare form. Follow me on this world tour. The asteroid that you can't avoid. Small changes make impact. I ran for it, I stand for it, I'm not sitting back. You can leave the rat race or you can leave the trap. Come with me, let's rap. Take a trip and we back. And we'll be right back. Yeah, come with me, let's rap. Take a trip and we back. And we'll be right back. I stand for what you stand for. Hey, I get on the mic and I transform. Follow me on this world tour. The asteroid that you can't avoid. Follow me.